Today I'm talking to Christine Tizzard, chef, author of Cook More, Waste Less, ambassador of Love Food, Hate Waste initiative. Hi, Miss Tizzard.
Hello, Robert. How are you? I'm so excited to be here with you in your kitchen.
Thank you. I love cooking, so I thought we could make one of your recipes from your new cookbook, Cook More, Waste Less. While we talk today, I will post the recipe below, but everyone should buy your book. We've been trying recipes from it all month now, and they're all great.
I'm so happy to hear that. And I'm also so happy that you're so young and you like to cook so much already. I think it's amazing.
I do.
What recipe did you choose to cook from a book?
Maybe that's a surprise.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's keep it a surprise then.
1.3 billion tons of food are wasted before it even gets to the store. How much of the food we buy is wasted?
Well, there's been a lot of studies about this, but in a roundabout term, we have to think about a third of all the food produced globally gets wasted. And when that translates into the everyday household, like when you go grocery shopping, think of it as about a quarter of the food that you buy at the grocery store will end up going in your garbage.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. How much does that cost per family?
Well, of course, it's going to vary, but I'm one of the ambassadors for Love Food, Hate Waste Canada, and they've done some great research and studies. And it looks like the average Canadian household will waste over $1,000 a year in food. And that's just the average household. So there's a lot of people out there that, buy more groceries, a lot of people out there that buy less, but on average, over $1,000 a year. On. Poof.
Probably maybe more than $1,000 because some people like to spend at least $100 when shopping every single time. So
Yeah.
probably at least if that's what you do, that's probably going to be at least $5,000 of.
Possibly. And that's why it's on an average, so they have to average everything out to try to get an idea. But yeah, I know some people that spend a lot of money on food, believe me.
What sort of food are we throwing out?
So there are some foods that are very commonly thrown out, but the biggest one are the foods that are most perishable. So things like fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, things that go bad quickly, people tend to buy, and then they either get busy and they forget to cook it, or it gets lost in the back of their fridge, or they don't know how to store it properly. And those tend to be the items that go bad fairly quickly. Or actually, get thrown away most often is the perishable foods. And then you also get into things like the more expensive foods, depending on what you're eating, like milk and meats and poultry and things like that. Sometimes leftovers get thrown away a lot too.
Yeah. My mom bought some strawberries and she was doing something else while the strawberries were in the fridge. They all went bad straight away.
Berries are the worst for that, and it's because if they're not local and you're getting them from a local farmer, we don't quite know how fresh they are when we get them at the grocery store. So sometimes we get them at the grocery store and we think we're going to get a few days out of them, but they could have been traveling to us for a week, and we get them, and then in one day, all of a sudden, they go bad. I know, sucks. And berries are not cheap.
No, they aren't.
They aren't.
But they're really yummy though.
They are really yummy.
Yeah. I read that 25% of the food wasted globally could feed all 690 million people hungry today. That's a shocking statistic. How can we distribute food better?
Well, that's a very big question. And it's not something that I personally have an answer to, because there's a lot of big companies in play that make big decisions when it comes to our food and where it goes. But I think the biggest thing for us is to do something like what you're doing today, which is educate. Educate, aware, people, get people more aware, teach people about how to shop and store their food and cook their food more efficiently is a big one, but also shopping and being more responsible with your purchases. So like when you are going to a grocery store or you have your favorite grocery store, things like, does that grocery store make you bring your own bags? And does it make you shop a little bit more socially and eco-consciously? But I think awareness is the biggest key to trying to change things around a little bit.
8% of all greenhouse gas emissions each year are due to food loss and waste. Apparently, Canada's 2.3 million tons of avoidable household food waste is equivalent to 6.9 million tons of CO2 and 2.1 million cars on the road. What one tip would save families the most food?
I think the biggest tip that I can give people is to try to avoid over shopping and making impulse buys. So I don't know if you've ever heard this, but my mom used to always tell me, you know, we shouldn't go to the grocery store when we're hungry. You know, because you end up like seeing all the things and you think, I'm going to get home and I'm going to cook this and this and this and this. And because you're just hungry, so you tend to like overbuy things. So I think my number one tip is to make a list of what you need to buy and try to stick to it and try to avoid over shopping and be realistic about what you're buying. So for instance, my partner tends to like to buy big bags of apples because they're cheaper. But we never end up eating all the apples and then the apples go bad. So I am always saying, let's just buy 3 or 4 apples. They might be more expensive, but we're not buying a plastic bag. And if we need to get more apples in a couple of days, we'll go get more apples. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of thinking, oh, I'm going to eat these 18 apples in, you know, the next week, which we might not do.
Actually, my dad put in a cabinet over there which stores all the, like, it's all like canned food and like stuff like that.
Pantry staples.
Yeah, like things that never go bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good thing to have. I personally love having pantry staples, things like cans of beans, dry rice, dry beans, dry legumes, because these things are very cheap to buy and they last for a very long time in your pantry, and you can always bring them out when you need to what I call is like build out a meal. So let's say you're making a chili, you know, then you can pull like the can of beans and you can pull like a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and it'll help like supplement and make the meal bigger. So
yeah. Diverting food waste to composting is better than sending it to a landfill, but preventing food from being wasted in the first place is an even better way to lessen our impact on the environment. Every 1,000 kilograms of household food waste that is avoided is the equivalent of taking 1 car off the road each year. What other ways can we reduce all this waste?
well, depending on where you live, I always tell people to really make an effort to try to figure out what can be composted, what can be recycled, because wherever you, depending on where you live, like if you live in Toronto, versus like I live, just outside Hamilton in farm country. The rules are very different on what I can and cannot throw away. And we actually don't have a green bin out here. So we are my food scraps, I'm forced to compost in my back garden, which is good. In some ways. It's messy and annoying in other ways, but the fact that I'm forced to do so makes me a little bit more aware on doing those things. But trying to, once again, we're back to the whole education thing, right? Like educate yourself on what you can do, what is best, where you live and that type of thing. But I always like to tell people when they go to the grocery store to just try to avoid at the most, try to avoid buying anything in packaging at all. Because when you're forced to not buy in packaging, you're also forced to think about how many things you might buy and how many things you might need throughout the week. So it won't end up going in the garbage.
Yeah.
But education is the biggest one. And education, this is why like things like Google is great, because, like for those strawberries you were talking about, let's say you get home and you're like, okay, I know I'm not going to eat these strawberries for the next 3 days. How do I make sure they don't go in the garbage? I can easily Google ways of like how to keep my strawberries longer. You could easily freeze them. You could easily use them up right away. You could make a iced tea with them. There's so many different things that you could do. So just educating yourself on how to properly store your food is another really, really good one.
Yeah. Or if you need them in like 3 days, why don't you just wait 3 days and buy them then?
That is another thing you could do. That's a whole other bigger conversation, I would say, because a lot of people think that buying the day of, like shopping for the day, sometimes reduces your food waste. But then there's another group of people that might think, well, if I shop once a week, that's better because then I'm not like burning more gas and all of these other things too. So it's a lot to consider.
Yeah.
But you have to figure out what works for you.
Yeah. Why don't you try to guess the cakes that I've made?
Oh, well, it's a cake.
Oh,
you just give it away. I'm trying to think how many cakes are in the cookbook, because I think there's only one cake in the cookbook, like an actual cake. So it would be my CBZ cake.
Yeah.
What does the CBZ stand for? What are the 3 things that you put in the cake? The bees
and
bananas. Yeah.
Zucchini.
Yes. So I like this cake because
it's basically the only cake in the whole thing.
Exactly. I know. Yeah, I wanted to do this one because I love carrot cake, I love banana bread, and I love zucchini bread. And they are 3 things that I make a lot to use up my bananas, use up wrinkly zucchini, and use up a few carrots that I might have. So I decided, why not make a cake putting them all together? So
maybe.
Looks fantastic. You did a really good job.
Thank you. Here, hold on.
Wow.
Grab a knife.
Oh my goodness.
I have a knife. Ready?
You have a knife. Yeah, let's give her.
I've been waiting for like a week for this.
A week? Oh my goodness. So was it an easy cake to make, or was it complicated? It
was pretty complicated.
Really? Oh, you did 3 layers and everything. Look at that.
I made it all by myself. I am 9. So
you're 9? Oh my gosh. Okay, so what was the hardest? Do you remember what the hardest thing was to do with the cake? Being 9, what was the hardest thing you think?
Probably grating the carrots. Probably the carrots. It takes so long. The carrots are the worst.
It does. It tastes. I made carrot cake for Easter last weekend, and that was the worst part.
It would not be fun doing that.
I know.
Fun.
Well, let me know what you think.
Okay.
Do you give it a pass or fail?
That's so good. I changed it with almonds because I'm allergic to nuts. So.
Oh, nice. Oh, good idea. Very good idea. That's the great thing about some of these classic recipes is that you can always swap things out.
Some ingredients that you don't like.
Exactly.
This cake is very good.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for joining me today, Miss Tizzard. And remember, together kids can save the world. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.